ToborTalks, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Here with me, we have two guests and my co-host Aaron. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
You start.
No, actually.
You start.
No, I'm eating.
Fine, then I'll start. Alright, what's up? I'm Advait. I've done robotics for, what is it? This is my 10th year kind of in the program, so FTC specifically. I've been on teams 7013 Hotwired and 12599 Overcharged, and right now I'm kind of, existing in the plane, I'm observing, I'm also judging. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say that I do. Nothing more special than that, just kind of your average FTC nerd, so that's a little bit about me.
I'm a FTC enjoyer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what he is. I'm also an FTC enjoyer. I'm Kevin. I was the former captain of ToborTalk, also the founding member. And yes, I've also been in the scene for a while. Probably like 8-9 years now.
Damn.
So almost as long as Advait. The Advait's freaking grandpa, so can't compare.
1 year longer, dude.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah. That's a lot, bro. That
Oh
FTC's
my
really
God.
changed.
Is it? Yeah, no, I'm curious because, okay, I think for me, because I'm not saying only because like this is going to be my 5th year of doing FTC as I go into my senior year. And it feels like what I've heard, the general sentiment, especially from a lot of alumni, is that the culture and the like certain value systems as well as like the style of competition has really changed. And so I'm curious, what was it like initially for you guys when you were doing like a while ago, like 2015, 2016?
Yeah,
What was it
I can talk about my first year of Worlds. So this is actually a crazy fact. I think most people who follow 7013 know this, but the very first year that I competed in robotics and the very first year that my team 7013 competed in robotics, we actually won the World Championships, winning the as captain. Yeah, we did.
I did not know that.
No, it's really cool. It's really cool. Now, when you get to the question of how we won that, it's a little bit more of a debatable topic. We got very lucky, to be honest, but it was a really cool competition nonetheless. I think Hotwire did deserve a victory, so it was really good. But the competition compared from like back then to like the last time I went to Worlds, which was in 2019, it's vastly different. So 2014, after the World Championship ended, so after all the matches and whatnot, there was this really cool party that was done. There was like inflatables everywhere, right? There was like free sodas and little things. We brought Sharpies because we knew will.i.am was going to be there somewhere.
will.i.am? Oh
Yeah, will.i.am.
my
He was the
God.
#1 celebrity, and we were like, yeah, let's get him to sign our phone cases, right? So I had to go buy a specific silver Sharpie, That was kind of the general vibe from the first world competition, right? And there were like snacks and stuff everywhere. Bear in mind, this is in the Edward Jones Dome. This is a very big competition field. Unlike what is it right now? The George R. Brown Convention Center.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fairly big room, but like being in a stadium is a huge difference. But that was the only year that I've experienced that. I think the years after that, they replaced it to the ballroom, which is a little bit, unfortunate, but really just the grand scale of Worlds was very different, and the nature of the competition felt a lot more different as well. Because back then, we used to use Samantha modules and stuff instead of like control hubs. This is like brand new stuff, right? So the technology's changed a lot too. The way we collaborate with each other, like back then, we used to have to get anti-static spray for our wheels because of how much static it was generating. Now we just slap tape on the robot and call it a day, right? So things have really changed quite a lot throughout the times. Obviously, I don't know what it's like today at Worlds because I haven't been to Worlds in a while, but it's vastly different for certain.
Yeah. I also think that definitely kids in first are just way softer nowadays.
Really? You think so?
Way more. I'm just kidding.
One thing I would say is, okay, so I joined Sky 7th season.
Yeah.
So like immediately, I feel like that was the season where there was like a large turning point, especially with COVID. But what I'm curious about is I feel like, I don't know how it was before, but I know there was a lot more awards system, especially awards that qualified for the Worlds. Because there were 2 Worlds, right? So I feel like the culture of the FTC has shifted a lot to become a lot more like, it feels more competitive now. I'm curious, was it the same level of competition as you guys were before? Or would you say it's a lot more intense now?
It's a good question. From my experience, I do think that there is an increase in competition, but that's within the general atmosphere, right? Within the top teams throughout all the years, there is that same level of competition. So, teams like back then it was Hotwire, Batteries in Black. These two were always fighting for the throne every single time. And for the most part, Batteries in Black always got the Inspire Award, like 3 years in a row, I remember. They ended up winning the Inspire Award. Even the year that Hotwire won Inspire at Worlds, they won Inspire at States, right? So it was a really tough competition, and it was very formidable, right? But the necessity for Inspire number one wasn't as high as it is now. Because my last year of robotics, again the 2019 time, there were 8 teams that made it to Worlds from Oregon, which is a lot, right? Versus now, 2 to 3 people, like that, 2 or 3 teams, that's such a low amount. I honestly don't think it's fair. It's way too small. We really need a second Worlds or at least a Super Regionals. So one of those two need to happen. It's fairly frustrating because I think the experience outside of state is a very critical one that many teams need to experience. So.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Also, robot game. Definitely a lot of teams now coming out of these like more rural areas. Even like Salem. I know Salem's our capital, but like historically, there has not been that many teams from Salem that have been like super competitive at the top, like top 3. But recently, we've seen a lot more in these teams, and so I think overall robot game is a little bit more competitive now, because you have so many like teams that previously didn't have name for themselves now popping out and just hitting like top 5, and it's pretty incredible.
A very good portion of that comes from companies like GoBuilda really like stepping it up when it comes to like making infrastructure available and enforcing better build patterns. So shout out to them for sure. They really helped with that. So
So a different side of that too is this year's game specifically allows for teams that aren't necessarily more technical to still win, because it's much more strategy focused. So on the field, what you're actually doing in the moment-to-moment robot game matters more than, or at least I think equally as much as your robot preparation.
I think it's interesting because it's to show like how much or how competitive like it really is. Because I don't know how much we've done of that. I mean, we definitely have done it a lot before, but definitely it felt like a lot more now. I think.
Yeah, and on like the larger scope, like outside of Verse is definitely one of the extracurriculars that will take all of your time up. Like, it's insane. Like if it's worth it or not, that depends on what you're doing, what kind of team you're on, and the culture. But like at a high level, it is one of the most intensive activities you can possibly do. And I think like for some people it's not worth it, but for others, if you're on a team that understands your goals and your needs and actually cares about you, it can be very worth it for a lot of different endeavors like college and beyond.
Yeah, no, Aiden and I combined have like 400 hours on the team this year.
As well as you.
Really fun.
Okay, so I talk to people in robotics. I'm like, hey, you guys want to go to the football game? And they're like, no, I'd rather be like working on the robot. And I'm like,
I mean, honestly, I relate to that.
no, that's fair. Like, it's fair. It's just interesting because I didn't realize a lot of the general archetype of people in. That sounds really bad, actually. Wait.
Okay, we're all nerds, bro.
Wait. Okay. A little bit, but then I'd be like, it sucks because I'm like trying to like be like, yo, let's do like team bonding, let's do average, and like, no, let's work on the robot. I'm like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It is definitely very time consuming, I will say, which is something I definitely felt going into junior year with first. This has probably been one of the most time consuming seasons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With higher competition, I feel like there's a lot more. I don't know how to explain this. This is gonna be like slightly fashion, so hopefully it's fine. I feel like a lot of the outreach that teams do, or like collaboration, I don't know why. So personally, as like our outreach lead, I've been like trying to do like some collaboration with other teams, but I feel like especially with like things like asking teams to like present on like a panel or like working with them to like do an event, it always feels like it has a sense of like being a little bit ingenuine. You know what I mean? Because a lot of it is like stuff you want to sell to judges, but sometimes I get like a little like weirded out because someone's like, hey, how would you like to participate in this like international outreach event? I'm like, sure, I guess. What are you gonna make us do? You know? So I don't know. It's been interesting to me to see like how competition, like the idea of competition a little bit. I'm curious to hear what you guys think.
It's a very, very, very solid point because I've also faced a fair share of that back in the day. More in terms of my like closer to the end of my time rather than the beginning time, because outreach wasn't as stressed as it was until when like around like 2017ish, where it became a really big deal. The trend that I'm noticing is that most teams that tend to do collaboration-based outreaches, you're correct. Like I genuinely do feel like most of them aren't as genuine as they should be, which is like it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Like I feel like if I were to evaluate a team, right, like besides my whole judging experience, like in general, I feel like I would genuinely weight teams that feel like they actually have pride in the outreaches that they're doing, and they care more about the initiative that they're taking, the effort that they're putting in, rather than the impact or the end results, right?
Yeah.
For me, I don't really care too much about the numbers. I think numbers are important, but at some point the numbers get blurred, right? I care more about what have you learned and what have you taught others in your community, and that really is what matters to me for in general. And I think many judges would also agree with me on this point too. It's really just a matter of how you do things and how it improves you and how you help others. Not necessarily a matter of, oh, I helped 7,000 or I helped 8,000, right? Like, I don't care the difference between those two numbers. They're the same to me, right?
Yeah.
I really care about how did you help those 7,000? How did you help those 8,000, right? That's really like what matters.
I do agree with that because I feel like a lot of the time, and this is bad because the way I've taught my members my team members to sell outreach, be like, okay, first of all, you do express the number, and then you need to explain it like we did every single stat and explain like thoroughly like what we did and how we helped. And it just sometimes it feels like, I'm like, damn, am I like, is this even real?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm like,
Just
like this feels unethical because I'm like, just for example, one outreach that we've done is like, it's actually very good. We've like volunteered and brought a robot to the Ronald McDonald House. So I told them like, okay, you gotta sell this hard to hit them with the pathos right now. You gotta be like, we help all these children.
Terminally ill kids.
Terminally ill
We're
kids.
helping them.
We're exposing the person to STEM. Like, you gotta sell that. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm an asshole.
No, there's a very hot take that I have about this. The second that I hear the word underrepresented communities, I imagine it's a BS outreach, especially if it's from a big team. Because I know that's just a buzzword that's being used for the sake of just getting outreach numbers or impact, right? Like, it doesn't feel real to me. I don't
Superficial impact.
Yeah, it's like I get it. If you're actually helping underserved communities and your goal is to do that, and I see it through the string of outreaches that you've done, I appreciate you and I applaud you for that, right? Good job, keep it up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like if it's just one random outreach that's there and then you have the word underrepresented next to it, I know you didn't mean to do that and that's not your main goal, right? So that's kind of why I personally don't value that kind of outreach from bigger teams as much as like maybe like a smaller team doing an outreach, like reaching out to like a fairly big corporation that's maybe like 50 miles out from their area. They drove all the way there, right? I think like it takes a little bit more for them to go out of the way, but at the same time, right? There's a point in the competition where you should obviously consider a team's background and their efforts that they're putting into it, but also you should consider the impacts too. So it's a little bit of a double-sided coin, obviously, but you should be able to like pick between the two effectively. It's hard. It's hard.
In short, there is a saying, breadth and depth is the most important. So you gotta have both, a wide impact and also a deep impact. Because if you're very superficial about your outreach and you're doing it just for the sake of impressing judges, they will see through it. He's a judge, take it from him. He will see through it.
Right.
So make sure that you are talking about the breadth of your impact, so how wide it is, and then also how deep your impact is, how you actually impact people.
Okay, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I don't know. It does feel like sometimes like teams are like trying to like hit criteria for their average. Like, okay, this is an underrepresented one. This is a professional club. This is a confidential. This is like.
It feels like a checklist, right?
Yeah, no, literally. It's like,
on the list.
I'm guilty of doing that too because I've like think about okay, these are our companies. These are the people we've helped, and I'm like, damn.
There's actually one recommendation along this line that I have, especially for larger teams and teams that have been doing this for a while. At some point, judges will be able to tell whether or not your outreaches are real or not, in the sense of did you mean to do it. And usually the way you see it is that they have outreaches, and then their team's goals are built around those outreaches. You can see where it's going one way rather than the other. I generally recommend teams to pick a goal, and it should be different from the last year, right? Because you're trying to do something new this year. So pick a new goal, start from there, and pick outreaches that fall into that goal, and try, if there's maybe like 2 or 3 goals, try finding outreaches that blend those goals, right? And that's a good way to kind of pick outreaches and also be genuine about it and stay true to your word. Because it really does help you out because you're much more organized, but at the same time it is real. It's not some fake outreach. So I think it's objectively like a much better way to handle things.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. What do you guys think the dynamic is, like, especially in competitions? Because a lot of my friends that I have will be on other teams or something like that. So it's weird, like, communicating with them through a lens of FTC while also trying to be, like, making and meet new people. So I'm curious if you guys think about that. Yeah.
Obviously, be friends when you're outside of FTC, because FTC is not your entire life. Your goal is not to kill these people because of FTC. Okay? Your goal should be friends, okay?
I think to rephrase what he said in a nicer way,
Bro,
be
yeah.
smart but still be friends.
Okay, that makes sense. I was just like, kill the ball.
Yeah, like GP applies everywhere.
No, that's
Yeah.
true. Anyways, you guys, I assume you guys have sat in a little bit. Obviously, working with like Overcharge and then working with ToborTalk and like seeing us as alumni. Would you say the culture and like the way that teams act now, or like our members act, is a lot different than when you guys were like prominent in like on your own teams?
You probably have a better answer for this.
I think for ToborTalk it's definitely. I think the culture shifts as the generations go on, like because at least for our team, the quality of members has improved. I think because the members have been more driven and they also have more access to resources and more knowledgeable mentors, right? Because mentors have also evolved over the years.
Yeah.
So overall, our team, at least for ToborTalk, much more driven, knowledgeable, resourceful, a lot more money.
I think part of that comes from the fact that our team has accrued like general knowledge over the years, so we're teaching
Yeah.
these people way better coming in now.
True.
Yeah, because one underrated thing, one underrated part of the game is also who your mentors are, who's your coaches, because they will make or break your team. Like a good coach will outperform not bad, but one that is newer to the scene, or a coach that does not have the
That
experience.
makes sense. Yeah. No, I'm interested.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak a little bit for the overcharge side of things. I don't really know what the team's like nowadays because I'm not kind of on it. But in previous years, though, like, yeah, every year there is a change. Like, there is a shift. Even under, like, so I was on overcharge for 2 years and I was captain of the team for both those years. Like, there was definitely a culture shift, but that was mostly, like, initiated by me because I wanted to change it, right?
Yeah.
For Hotwired specifically, there were lots of changes over time, but you know, it for the most part, the core part of the team stayed the same. And like I have opinions on this, very strong opinions, but I wasn't a big fan of those core parts of the team. It didn't feel like a team; it felt more like a group of people working together. They were lacking that one bonding aspect, right?
That's such a big thing. Actually, like you'll notice in FPC, most of the teams just have like 15 members, but only like 3 or 4 are core members.
You know,
that are
I see
working
that a
their
lot
ass
in FRC. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and the
very
thing is,
true in
like,
FTC too.
if your team is able to branch out and make like maybe like 8 or even 10 of those people actually really engaged, your team will have such a higher chance of success because then you're just like boosting your productivity and like efficiency in every other realm, like hardware, software, outreach, etc. Alright, if you enjoyed this episode and you want free resources, go ahead and hit up ToborTalk on Instagram or Overcharge. They'd be very happy to provide any free resources.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed it, or whatever this gets cut down to. And yeah, this is episode 2. So be prepared for more on the way.